body coach. Wow, we've got a brilliant event today, and I hope everybody really thoroughly enjoys it. I'll just share with you in a moment when we're live. We're going to start at exactly 6 o'clock. 7 o'clock, actually. Goodness me, how's that for my brain? Nearly live. Nearly there. Just waiting for it. That's the modern technology for us, eh? Juggy, we're just waiting for it to go live. Everybody's arrived early. Welcome. Thank you very much for being so supportive of our mission, the Inspired Tribe and Salam Radio, delivering such, I hope, good quality empowerment to your mind and to your brain in your world. This is going to be episode 63. Oh my goodness, I can't believe it's been such a brilliantly long time. But it's not been a challenge. It's been wonderful, I think. Anyway. I'm just going to check to see if it's functioning. We seem to have a slight glitch, team, but do bear with me. So I'm just making it live. If you just hold on a few seconds, Juggy, if that's okay with yourself as well.
Absolutely.
I'm just going to switch it off again and see whether it works this time. Oh, it says we're live streaming. So for some reason, it says it's live streaming. Okay. Job done. So I'll just open up Wi-Fi just to double check that it's all functioning on YouTube. If it is, then we're good. I think we're live. Yes, we are.
Switch off again.
Brilliant. So welcome everybody to another episode. In my opinion, one of our it's become kind of like a bit of a signature for myself as Sukhi Wahiwala, your host for the Empower Hour show. Now, in this particular series of empowerment shows, you may find that there's a load of individuals that you probably use the same principle as empowerment, but our conversations are kind of like nitty-gritty and get really, really honest and true with each one of our guests every single week, every Tuesday between 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock p.m. live on YouTube. This will be shared, and I'm welcoming everybody who's joined us from, if you can hear us on Salam Radio as well, that's here in Peterborough. A warm welcome to everybody. Well, this evening, we haven't let you down. We've got one of my personal sort of like, I think something that I wanted on the show for quite some time, but due to our schedule with Abstract PR, we couldn't quite get this gentleman in earlier. He's somebody who's worked with a lot of my very close family and friends and members of my family, I should say. People like Manjeet Nijjar, who will be on a future show as well, Rav Plahe, and a number of other individuals. It is nonetheless, but you can see him on the back of his screen there on his virtual. It's Juggy Sidhu, the Indian body coach. Sorry, I was just going to read something completely different. It says online coach. The Indian body coach, so somebody who actually has created this unbelievable 90-day transformation. It's a little lie, actually. It's not 90 days. It's nearly 100 days. He really does put a lot of effort and love into it. We'll talk about that a bit later on. But he's an award-winning bodybuilder, body stylist coach. He works on bio of your body, your brain, your mind. You know, honestly, when we're talking about even things such as reversing diabetes, which is a type 2 diabetes, which is a real important understanding for this kind of time in our life, really. And especially when we're kind of hit with COVID and sitting at home and probably consuming the naughty things that we shouldn't be. Juggy is actually an award-winning individual who's represented the United Kingdom in many competitions. And without further ado, I would like to introduce him because he's waiting silently and honestly. Juggy, welcome to the show.
Sukhi, thank you so much for that incredible introduction, man. And it's amazing to be here today. And like you said, it's something that we've been looking to do for a while. So I'm grateful that we've managed to make it happen.
I truly am as well. And our audience is going to be in for a real treat this evening. We are going to be going nitty-gritty, very close and honest with Juggy, and we're sharing openly, and we're also going to go into some of his remedies and some of his skill in the second half of this interview as well. So please stay tuned right to the end. If you're joining us at the moment right now on YouTube Live, please jump in and stay with us all the way to the end. Juggy, I just want to ask with a few things. We get really close, and I do apologize if some of the things are personal, and maybe you want to share some stuff that really is very personal to yourself and very honest inside. I know you're a very deep thinker, so this is the kind of thing that we want to share. We've got audiences from all around the world, people from every single continent on the planet. And I really would like to say thank you to all of their support and love for joining us on the Empower Hour and myself, Sukhi Wahiwala, with Juggy this evening. Juggy, we always start with a simple question. Who is Juggy Sidhu? Where are you from? Where do you reside today, and what do you do? What was your life like as a journey when you grew up?
Yeah, so I'll go with the first one first. I think it's the easiest place. I'm from Coventry in the United Kingdom. So I've just very recently moved away from Coventry, but not too far. Still want to stay close to the parents. Yeah. You know how it is. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I'm from Coventry. I'm 32 years old. The youngest of 3 children.
All right.
Older brother, older sister. Sister's the eldest. Lives in Hong Kong.
Wow.
Yeah, we're all over the place, really.
Lovely, diverse family. That's brilliant. Lovely to hear.
Absolutely.
And so, just a question to yourself. I mean, you grew up obviously in Coventry. Your parents, ancestral, sort of like kind of your name's Juggy Sidhu and your brand. You've got a really, really solid brand, and you've worked really hard for this. And God bless you with all of that confidence and future success. Who is Juggy Sidhu? Where were you? What was it like growing up in your household as 3 beautiful siblings as you were, mum and dad? What was it like? Maybe grandparents and etc.
You know what? Maybe beautiful on the outside looking in. With these, how we are as kids. Mm-hmm. Look, we had a lovely upbringing. In Coventry. Elder brother, elder sister. I think I spent most of my time growing up just trying to figure out how to annoy my brother. And
that's a good one. I wish I had a younger brother or an older brother that I could have done that too. My brother's 16 years my senior, so I couldn't have annoyed him so much.
Well, yeah, we were all kind of 3 years apart. So my brother's 3 years older than me. My sister's 6 years older than me. So me and my brother were really, really tight. I remember even back in the day in the same football team, and the football team, the lads still laugh at us about this, but when we were captains, we'd always choose each other first. So we would always Sabby would be captain, they'd choose me. Same with, I would always choose him first, the first pick.
There's such camaraderie there, but also I'm sure that you both obviously were internally quite together, but competitive as well, I'm sure, to try and edge each other on, right?
Absolutely. Back in maybe in the football team we would choose each other, but in the garden when we were playing against each other, it would be dog eat dog.
It'd be like, come on then, I'm going to take this one, I'm going to win, I'm going to score.
Absolutely.
So a little Dickie Bird told me a little bit about you, and you might be surprised that I know a little bit about your background as well. And I know your father and your mother were very inspirational in your journey. Will we talk about lovely fond memories of our parenting and our child upbringing, for example? Your father played a really strong role, as did your mum as well. Loved both of them. But your father played a really strong role, and he was very inspirational to yourself in the earlier years. We spoke about football, so please, if you don't mind sharing, our audience is really interested in this kind of stuff about you.
Yeah, well, I don't even know where to start, because there are so many different, I guess, examples of where my father has inspired me in my life. That I just remember from a very young age that when Dad came home, it was time to play, it was time to have fun, it was time to be a lot of enjoyment involved in that. And because my dad worked so hard, like we had Saturdays which we'd have Saturday night parties every single weekend. It would be a Saturday night party. It wasn't anything extravagant. I mean, we didn't have a lot of money growing up. It wasn't about materialistic things. It was literally about us getting together around around a table, there being some nice food on the table, maybe watching a film together as a family. These were the memories that I still remember to this day. They played such a strong role in kind of who I am today and how I want to be seen as a father.
That is just, sorry to just disturb you there, but that is just so beautiful. Having parenting or individuals. Now, our heart goes out to people who probably don't have that kind of a connection with their parents. But it doesn't matter if it's your parent, but it's a parent figure, whoever takes that maternal paternal position for yourself. That's what life's about. But do you know what? Honestly, that's just so brilliant to hear that, Juggy, about having a party together on a Friday night or Saturday night, sorry. What your dad obviously worked really hard during the week and the days. So what did he do? And tell me a bit about that.
when I was born, my dad was a taxi driver, and now he's a project manager, and he's really had to do a lot of work to kind of level up and
Wow.
change and evolve within himself. This is an example. So I remember my dad was working in Oxford, and we're based in Coventry. So every single day he'd have to get up at between 3:30 and 4 o'clock to leave to drive to Oxford. He'd
Wow.
spend a whole day working, and a whole day is not just 9 till 5. It was 12-hour days, right? And he wouldn't leave until the job was done. And then when he did come home, it wasn't that he was resting and recovering for the next day. He would sit there, he'd go through our homework together, he would mark it, he'd give us suggestions, help us improve. I was always, our teacher at school would always remark on how incredibly neat our homework was. It wasn't always right.
But you had to get that pass from your dad, right? Because you're obviously saying, no, but don't rewrite that, I'm afraid. That doesn't look so good.
The discipline that was instilled from me from that, it goes both ways, right? So discipline at the time felt awful. It felt like really, really challenging. But in essence, it taught me about standards. And standards and discipline are such huge parts of who I am today. And I really appreciate that lesson. But even then, it wasn't just about discipline. It wasn't just about academics. It was also, now let's go and enjoy ourselves. Let's go in the garden. Let's play. Let's
bonding.
And honestly, he would then go and learn and educate. He would then go and do night school. He would then go and do another qualification on top of all this, everything else he was doing on a day-to-day basis.
That's a hero.
In year 6, I wrote, I think it was a 12-page A4 essay on why my dad was a hero, and they made me read it out in front of the whole school with all of the the parents in the assembly as well. And it must have been about an hour long, where I was just kind of reading one page to the next. It felt like an hour anyway, but it was just an insane experience. But it was awful.
It was like I suppose you could say it was like a just the truth from your heart, right? As a child, it's a year 6, that makes it what you were about.
11 years old.
Sorry,
about 10, 11.
10. That's right. Yeah, 10 or 11 years old. That's so beautiful. So at this point, I'm going to ask your dad's name, because it's really lovely that you can actually share this. It'll be going across radio, it'll go across the media, and it's nice to share our parents' names as well.
My dad is Gulberg Sidhu. Funny story, he's got a nickname, and it's called Psycho Sid.
Psycho Sid? Come on, after all of this love and attention and consideration and turning his life around, and you guys he's got a name of Psycho Sid?
Listen, this was news to me. It was a client that got on the phone to me and said, by the way, I think I know your dad from the old football days. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. He was like, I saw a picture. We used to call him Psycho Sid. And I was and my dad told me the story behind it. But yeah,
I take it he was a ruthless competitor.
That's the one.
That's the reason why he was Psycho Sid, yeah? Give it to him and he'll go for it no matter what happens.
Exactly.
It's a nice one. We've got children listening, right?
But no, honestly,
how powerful.
He was called Psycho Sid because he was driven. He wouldn't take no for an answer. He wouldn't stop. And that's where he got the intensity of that name. But it's powerful because you see it, and I feel it when I felt it from him growing up, that intensity. Now he's a granddad. Now he looks after my kids. I don't see it anymore. Like, suddenly, where's that version of dad gone?
I have to tell you something, and this is something that I'm going to share from my own journey, because I'm actually one of 8 children. I'm the youngest. So my father and mother, in essence, they're the grandparents to great grandchildren as well now, with gratitude. But I've seen my father was always that person like yourself, where you said was just this regimental, structured individual, which gave that essence of discipline, what you just shared, of self-discipline, should I say? And then now, when you see him with the grandchildren or great grandchildren, or my children, and next, he's just like a softball. It's just like he just molds and chills. In my day, we couldn't walk in front of the television. You know that, don't you?
Absolutely.
Now these guys are like, no, I don't want to watch that. I want to watch this. And he's going, all right, well, watch what you want to watch. In my day, if something got in between my father at news at 9, at news at 10, there'll be a problem. news in the evening, BBC One, BBC ITV, no matter what happened. Oh, wow. Brilliant, Juggy. I'm really, really proud that you've respected your father in such a beautiful way. And I'm very certain your mum was equally as assertive in your life as well. Yeah, I'm just going to ask a little question to yourself. I mean, was to yourself, you had this beautiful upbringing, and the message that we're giving out is obviously today you're a coveted individual who's just at the top of his game. And obviously, I've spoken to you, such a humble guy. There's definitely going to be more pages to your story, without a doubt. But in life, an individual kind of goes through this principle of switching themselves on or not. It's like a light switch. Something hits you hard that makes you think, life's got to change, or this is not a role play. This is the real thing. So in this particular section, I'd like to ask you a question. Was it always about this lovely jovial confidence that you have right now? Or, was life different for yourself? And, what really, we call it a significant memory or a life-changing process. We call it, what changed your life? Because you're a very present individual. That's why you made it to this show. So please, share us something, a life-defining moment.
You know what? So growing up, obviously living in a very safe environment, very secure environment, pretty much not leaving the house a lot because it was very much academically driven. I wanted to be the best that I could be in school. If I wasn't at school and doing my A-levels, I was working a part-time job to make money and put it into a savings account. So it was very kind of secure kind of upbringing that I had. Then I went to university for the first time and left the house.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly realized it was a big, wide world out there, wide world of opportunities, but also something that I was not used to. I don't feel ready for, let's say.
Stability wise, because you're always at the nest egg. You've flown the egg, or flown the nest, sorry.
Yeah. And honestly, I did feel that. I felt exposed, I felt vulnerable, I felt out of place. So a lot of what I did at that point was to try and fit in. So what does everybody do when they go to university? They drink, they go out, they speak to the opposite gender and whatnot. And that was what I tried to be. I tried to become something that I wasn't. At the same time, we had a passing in the family. My baba, who so close to, lived around the corner.
Your granddad, for anybody else who's not understand what baba means, yeah, yes.
And we were so tight, we were so close, and he passed pretty unexpectedly, and that had such a profound impact on me. I wasn't ready. It was the first time I'd experienced death, and I just wasn't ready. I didn't have the emotional tools available to handle that. I only had one tool, and that was really alcohol. That was a good way for me to mask my pain. And it wasn't a good way, of course, but that was the only thing that I had available to me. And then, pair that with the fact that I was away from home for the first time. I was experiencing university life. I wasn't used to it. I wasn't ready for it. Mm-hmm. And it was a bit of a recipe for disaster. And I say this because I think it's important. A lot of the people that I speak to on a day-to-day basis go through these challenges in life, but have never really had a moment to kind of reflect on them, to actually understand how profound they are. Yeah. And
sorry, just to that I'm putting my hands up because that's so powerful. The realization that you've just shared with our audience today is the listening of what I'm hearing from your voice is the fact that you've realized that you weren't ready for university and it was the norm, so you followed suit. That by no means do I mean you didn't academically achieve, but that inner resilience kind of got affected a little bit with reference to your grandfather, Babaji, who passed away and really left you in a puddle. But what I really want to thank you for is being so open and honest with reference to the alcohol side of things and actually saying, well, this is the only way I could kind of, I suppose, would it be correct to say, drown the sorrow and try to make head or tail of what's going on in your life, right?
Exactly. But I think it's a combination of all these things. It's an amalgamation of all these things. And then you don't realize how bad it has become until something really drastic happens. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I was at my lowest ebb. In fact, I'll say this: I had a very clear picture as to who I should be at a certain age. In my mind, at 21, I should have had my degree. 24, I should be married. 25, 26, I should have my children. 30, I'd be in a house. I'd have a supercar, parked outside. Yeah. Don't know where this came from. I remember all the way back to 12, 13 years old, writing this down as part of the school report. What do you want to be when you're older? And you write all these things down.
That is just that's astounding.
Mm.
As a child,
Mm.
kind of pre-planning, I suppose you could say it's a bit like a dream, a kind of a life dream. It's like putting yourself into there with a plan, saying, this is what I would like to achieve. That's just stunning and brilliant. Now, but within there, you just touched something that you had a reference point of where you don't know where it came from. So we have a one side of our story. It says it came from up above and from within, but the other side, it could have been learnt. Is that right? Nature, and maybe referring yourself to the rest of the world. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a certain narrative as an Indian male that you live up to. You're expected to go down a certain path. So whether that's a career path, whether that's the relationships that you're in, when it's what car you should drive, what house you should own, how big it should be, and all that sort of stuff. And I think there is an element of comparison within our culture, and I think there's always that kind of talk. Maybe he's not succeeding because he's not achieved this goal yet, or he's not living in this area. And I do think that I was very conscious of that from a young age. And I think that did shape me, but it made me feel, because when I was in my early 20s, I felt like a failure. I hadn't started my life yet, but I'd already felt like a failure.
Do you know, that is so beautiful. Thank you for being honest. And if anybody's feeling like this, if you're listening on air, etc., you're feeling in this sort of way, just reach out to people around you, but please make it clear to what you're actually feeling. So somebody somewhere along there, you may find one person in 20, but somebody will reach out to give you a hand and move yourself further forward. Thank you, Juggy. Please carry on.
Yeah. And look, this was, I'm 32 now, and this was going back 12 years. And I don't think mental health was really on the agenda back then. And social media certainly wasn't around. I don't remember. I think Facebook came around when I was at university. So all these kind of social media things where people talk about mental health and mental well-being, they weren't accessible like they are now. Like, social media wasn't a big thing. Nobody was talking about it. There was no Indians talking about their mental well-being. And our culture as well, it was very much deal with it within your four walls. And honestly, I don't think that I was able to verbalize my emotions because it was so raw. It came out as anger. So the people that I loved, and clearly I love and I respect now, I was pushing away because I didn't think they could handle what I was experiencing. And it got to the point, Sukhi, where I felt like a burden. I felt like a burden to those around me. I felt like I was dragging everybody else down, that I wasn't good enough.
Yeah. Sorry to stop you there, but I want you to touch that again in a moment. But did you feel that basically they had no chance of understanding what you're going through? The stuff that you were going inside said, well, you've got no reference point to my world. I'm the one's going through this. Is that right?
Yes. And do you know what, Sukhi? I felt guilty.
Okay.
I felt guilty because my parents had given their all to me. Their all. They'd worked their fingers to the bone. They'd given us everything that we could possibly need growing up, given us the opportunity to go through education. They didn't have that opportunity. My dad was married when he was 19, and it was straight into work. My mum was married when she was 17, and it was straight into work.
Straight into work, yeah.
I didn't have.
Is that feeling of failure and, again, possible reference, but also I'm not sure if anybody understands what's happening is what you did is you kind of like put this upon yourself, right? So it actually pulled you away from your own family, people, and from your core. Now, you touched on this just a moment ago, and you said, I didn't feel enough. Would you mind just evolving a little bit about that and what the outcome was?
Yeah, and I think this is important because I think it comes back to that comparison, like enough compared to who? Enough, where was my perception of what enough is? And it was mainly from that vision that I had at 12, 13 years old. And I wasn't living up to my own expectations. I'd gone from at school being rewarded a massive shield from the mayor to say you've done the best, you got the best results in GCSE levels and A levels and all that. And then I'd gone to university and I felt completely out of place. I wasn't attending seminars. This was before I went and studied nutrition. This is when I was literally going to university because I thought this was a career path. This is something I need to do. And it before I'd even thought, like, who do I want to be? Like, where do I want to be in life? You know what? I think that sometimes we do need that time to actually understand what we want to do before we go to university.
I love it. I love it. And I think that's you've got to find yourself first, right? What do I even like? What do I want to do? Is that right?
Absolutely. If I went to university now in the state that I'm in, with the passion that I've got, with the purpose and the drive that I've got, it would be a completely different story to the 19.
You better get out of the way. That's what would happen. So
I think the lecturers would probably be pushing me away and saying,
enough, get away from me now. I've given you all the knowledge I had. I've got no more. Oh my goodness. I can sincerely, I'm sure the audience can feel that as well. I just want to touch base a little bit more about the not enough. Where did it lead you? Because that's really touched myself at the moment. And where did it lead you? What was there any kind of journey? Did you manage to, complete your university and move forward?
Yeah, you know what? It led me to the point of despair and the brink of self-destruction. So I'm going to share this. I think I've maybe shared this story once before in a public forum, but I'm going to share this today. Okay. And it led me to the point that I felt like such a burden of failure to everybody else. I felt like I was letting everybody else down, that I didn't want to be that person anymore. I wanted to escape. Mm-hmm. And I got in my car. I drove, I went on the motorway, and I drove as fast as I possibly could. And I was just looking for the right opportunity, and unbuckled my seatbelt, saw a wall, and thought, this is it. This is my escape. This is my way out. This is the way to unburden everybody. And I just drove. I drove straight into the wall.
Oh my goodness. Firstly, Juggy, thank you very much for being so honest and being humble enough to share this journey. You probably don't realize that it's probably going to help more people than you think. Really thank you on behalf of our tribe and ourselves, and we really feel what you're going through. Now, if anybody else is feeling these kind of feelings as well, of kind of, you could say, suicide and ending your life and not being enough and burden, please, it's not okay. You can see Juggy's head nodding with me as well. It's not okay. It's not okay to sit there and suffer in silence. Please reach out. If you're a schoolgoer, you must reach out to your teachers. If not the teachers, you must escalate this and go straight to your head teacher. And if you're an adult, you must reach out to people such as, the Samaritans, and actually communicate with your doctor, which is the key and core person. Talk to your doctor and tell them, I am having these moments. So just wanted to share, if you're listening, and you must reach out. It's not okay to suffer in silence. So please take that action. Juggy, thank you for being so open and honest. Please continue.
Awesome. Look, that for me was a life-changing moment, and of course it would be. And I thought it would go one way, and it went completely the other. And
so, what actually happened? I mean, wow! You've driven, 100 miles an hour. You've driven yourself into this concrete wall, in essence. What happened? You've unbuckled your seatbelt. What happened?
In my mind's eye, I was going to go through the windshield, and that would be it. But what actually happened is nothing. Like, the car was completely and utterly crushed. The glass was shattered. And I mean, even to this day, all I have is some cuts, and I can see it, the scarring on my hand, but nothing. There was nothing.
Wow. I'm blown away. Thank you for being honest. And, obviously you realize that wasn't the answer. And there must have been something, you came out with just scratches and grazes when it should have been a fatal interaction with the wall. What did this mean to you, Juggy?
At the time it was shock, complete and utter shock, but it was also, there was something within me that said, there's something bigger. Like, the reason that I felt all that frustration and emotion and stress, and I felt like I wasn't enough, is because I wasn't living up to who I should be. And I know this is going to sound strange, but I've always had this vision that I'm going to be able to impact so many people. I'm going to be able to support and impact so many people. But I think it was that transformation within myself at that very moment that actually, I've tried to do this, but it wasn't my time.
Did you feel, Juggy, that what you thought your life was supposed to be and what it was were in such deep disparity with each other? They were polarized that you thought, well, okay, this is the only way exit. I don't have to let people down. in hindsight, you've realized that that wasn't the answer, because all the people who love you and your actual ambition, and today your family and your son and your wife and all that beautifulness wouldn't have happened. So we, in that moment of darkness, you don't see the light. It's easy to say in reflection, but is it true to say that each and every one of us has something embedded in us that we are supposed to be bringing to this world? Is that kind of where you feel?
What this is the thing, like when I went home that day and I was taken home and I saw my dad and he was just broken. I could see it's the first time I think I'd seen him really cry. And suddenly it was like a switch in my mind that how could I be the cause of this? And I didn't realize, I didn't accept the amount of love that there actually was in the world. I didn't accept that amount of love.
Right. Such a big thing that was. I'm going to keep you going on this in a second. This is so important for us all. If you've just joined us, we've reached halfway through our interview already with Juggy Sidhu, the Indian body coach. And this is the Empower Hour show, live in episode 63. You need to scrub back and listen to this beautiful journey that Juggy has been going through, and actually how he formidably turned his life around after a near-death and suicide attempt as well. We're going to go straight back to Juggy now. Juggy, back over to yourself. So please, what you saw that day after you had arrived back home, saw the tears in your father's, this tough, strong individual, and how possibly there was another side of life that you hadn't seen or visualized?
I think it's so easy to get caught up in where you want to be that you forget where you are right now. You forget how beautiful the world is. You forget to be grateful for everybody that's around you, for the love that is present.
Love it.
From my perspective at that point, I think it did open my eyes up a little bit. I saw my mom completely rally around me. So my mom called up pretty much every psychologist and counselor that would, allow me to talk, allow me to get into that environment and open up. And to be honest, at the time, I still wasn't ready to do that. So I was pushing a lot of them people away. And then there was one guy that called me out, and he called me out on my behavior. And it just made me open up. It made me talk. It made me share. And it gave me so much perspective that I walked out, and almost as a visualization in my mind, I saw a path. And I saw this path of self-destruction. I saw it was where it was leading me. And I saw this path of my potential and where I could get to. And it was a choice. I realized at that moment it was a choice. And I stood there in the crossroads and I decided where I was going to go. And honestly, I don't think I've looked back. I think there's been other areas of my life where I've grown and evolved as time has moved forwards, but I don't think I've looked back since seeing that crossroads.
Wow. Feel free to honor the person who actually changed your life in any way. I mean, we've got no restrictions on this show. We're not the type of people who hold people's names back. It's lovely to give a bit of love and attention to that person as well. So feel free.
At that point, the psychologist, and this is really, really bad, but I don't recall his name. And he had such a profound impact on me. And when I did try and get in touch with him again to say thank you, he'd left the practice. It was almost like he'd disappeared into thin air. And
unbelievable. It's like one of those missions or conversations that you think that person was just sent there just at that moment, at the right time. When we say that we usually say when the student's ready, the teacher appears. But in our philosophy of the Synagogue method, we always teach all of our methodology practitioners to say, actually, no, when the teacher's ready, the student appears. So he helped you, but you must have sincerely helped him as well. So wish him all the best and hope he's still shining light. Juggy, so just moving forward into that moment of your life, it's very profound and you really did change. But I also know Juggy, who is somebody who is enough today. So what did you transform yourself? How did you move yourself further forward? You've had some lovely help from this particular individual. So what was the pivotal moment for you in your life when you said, this defines me, I'm done, I've got to do something different?
Well, this is the thing. I think that event allowed me to open my mind up to who I wanted to be, where I wanted to lead my life. And I took a bit of time to actually understand, well, what do I want to do? And it's not the most traditional kind of degree to get, but I wanted to go and study nutrition. I wanted to go and study lifestyle. I wanted to study health and the impact that we could have through making small changes each day. So I went to university and I studied that for 3 years. I came away with, my degree and my bachelor's. It was such an amazing experience, and I grew a lot from that. And then on the back of that, again, I was suddenly in this wide world. Like, what do you do next? You get your degree. Where do you take it? Where do you start your own business? Do you go and find somebody? There wasn't any jobs in nutrition at that point. I don't think it was as big as it is now. And it was at that moment that I was like, actually, what is the trajectory here? And I really enjoyed bodybuilding. I really enjoyed training. I really enjoyed helping others and inspiring others. So I went and became a personal trainer, and I went and studied. And then I decided, well, what's the next step? How do I get seen? How do I get recognized? So I went and did, physique competitions. And at that point, I got the opportunity to actually represent the UK in a natural bodybuilding federation. And, I won championships. I went up and down the country. I got to compete on an international level.
Wow.
And that was so just, again, it was such a big turning point for me to go from, zero to representing this. And also being the first Indian at that time to represent on an international level from the UK. And I thought that was such a profound moment for me.
Wow, that's such a great achievement, not only just for yourself as an independent individual, but also for the community at large, because you represented the UK, United Kingdom. That's wonderful. Juggy, there's something that I want to I think you glossed over. And I don't think really you realized how important that really is. But, you said, oh, yeah, I became a kind of like a bodybuilder and moved into this environment and stuff. Juggy, I've been there. It takes some grit, my friend. It really does. We really have to push ourselves and keep ourselves going. So I'm going to reach out and ask you, okay, so there you are, deciding what do I do? You've decided this is my current purpose and current journey. How did you keep yourself on focus? Come on, give us some tips here. The audience is listening.
Look, for 4 years straight, I decided that was my purpose. Well, in fact, 2 years, I was fully invested in it. And it was everything to me. So I'd wake up, there'd be 2 to 3 training sessions a day. All of my nutrition would be prepped and packed and ready to go days in advance, and that was the lifestyle that I chose. So I have no regrets on that. That was who I wanted to be, and it got me to where I wanted to be.
Yeah,
as you can imagine, training for 4 hours a day, sometimes maybe longer. It was very demanding, and it was a very stressful environment to be in, within your own body. Your body's fighting that every single day, stopping you from sleeping. You feel that you're slowing down. You can't think as clearly as you ordinarily would. If I was bodybuilding and trying to have this conversation today, it wouldn't be so fluid. It wouldn't be so fluent.
Is that just to ask you a question? So I apologize. Is that because you have so much more protein in your system and you're not thinking straight, maybe reduction of carbohydrates, because that also starves the brain? What sort of goes on?
It was absolute depletion in every sense of the word. So calorie restriction, not feeding your body what it needs to thrive. And that's what I noticed was actually a harmful impact long term. For short periods of your life, you can do that. But for the long term, it's difficult to maintain that. And there's a dark side to bodybuilding that we don't see on Instagram. People don't really talk about this. It's the social media that we don't really want to put that message out there. But there is a dark side to bodybuilding, because once you've reached peak physical shape, that optimal shape, you don't want it to go, but you have to let it go. You don't want it to go. You can only be there for about a day, maybe a week maximum. You can't maintain that. So after a competition, your mind is constantly saying, you look terrible, you look awful, because you're not in that peak physical shape. So you go through these kind of constant cycles of binging, dieting.
Wow. Do you know what? Honestly, I can really resonate with that, and thank you for being so honest about it. I actually used to. I know you're looking at the body and thinking, yes, okay, I can clearly see that you were used to work out. I'm sure, but no, not really. Basically, I used to, when I was around sort of circa time when I got married quite early, around 21. Prior to that, about 17, 18, I started moving into bodybuilding, and I was into bulking up. So I was a completely different type of an athlete, I suppose you could say. But I also ran businesses at the same time, so I can fully understand that. And if I wasn't at that time kind of supported by my sister, and I have to give her a shout out, her name is Rena Wahiwala. We're very close as a family, but she used to do my meal preps for me as well. So she was a nutritionist, would you believe? And she used to meal prep my food. That is the key. But the the point with myself, I never really got to that point of self-resentment because I didn't compete, and I was doing it for kind of a release from my regimed work. I used to work really hard. I ran 3 companies at the time. So how did you get over that reflection position of I'm not enough there again? You know, you've gone from I was not enough when I was younger. You've now achieved, but now you're kicking yourself up the backside, in essence, with reference to I've missed my peak potential now. I've missed my peak. I don't look as good anymore. People don't realize all the dehydration you have to go through just before you exhibit your body, and this kind of thing just must kill you in essence, right? So what did you do to reconnect with oneself to realize that? I mean, was there a significant time or something that really shifted you?
Absolutely. I remember because, you know, my son was born and here I was still competing, and I was, you know, drawn. My face was gaunt. I didn't look healthy. Aesthetically, it was amazing, of course, but I say that quite, I'm being, you know, modest here. I don't want to say that I looked like a, you know, incredible, but if I look back at those pictures now, they're very aspirational, inspirational pictures, but it wasn't who I was. I didn't have that energy. I was
I've
not.
seen the pictures. You were gaunt. You're saying gaunt, but it's the BMI. It's the body fat is just virtually not there, isn't it? Your cheeks are sucked in, and I can see you. You look great, but you look far healthier now.
Yeah. But this is the thing. Here I was living this lifestyle, but also trying to be the best dad that I could be, trying to be the best for the clients that I was serving, trying to learn, trying to educate, trying to grow. But I couldn't do all of these things because I was so invested in the bodybuilding and the way that I looked physically. And I sat there on my sofa one day and I was crying. And I remember my wife said to me at that point, Jussie, she said, you know, why are you doing this to yourself? Like, you don't enjoy it anymore. You used to enjoy it. You don't enjoy it anymore. And I was actually like, I felt that everything was intertwined with how I looked. The clients that I was working with, I thought, why would they want to work with me if I don't look like this?
Wow.
How am I going to serve people? How am I going to help people if they don't want to work with me because I don't look like this? And that was the moment I was actually introduced to a guy, Mark Coles. Who I do want to shout out Mark Coles because he had a profound impact on my life as well.
Perfect.
He got me to a point where he actually made me reflect on who I was as an individual. And nobody had ever done that really before. Really understand at that moment, who am I? Because values change, you adapt and you grow over time. But who am I in that moment? And I was a father, I was a family man, and I was a person that wanted to inspire other people to health and happiness. So that's something that still lives with me. And he made me realize that I didn't need to look a certain way to do that. In fact, it was all the other things that had been neglected, the education, the experiences that I needed to go through, you know, to grow, the ability to educate and inspire others. I couldn't do that when I was gaunt and stressed and tired, not sleeping properly.
Couldn't think straight.
So, exactly. And I think he really did focus me. Who do you want to work with? And it turned out it was, you know, people like my dad, you know, my dad who'd worked his fingers to the bone, who was stressed, who was, you know, going through certain, you know, health changes at that point. I'd seen in our community type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure.
Yeah.
Again, stress not being managed, psychology. Nobody's really talking about mental health.
Not at all.
So that suddenly it was a kind of light bulb moment. This is what I'm here for. This is my ability to inspire others, to grow into who I needed to be.
That, to me, that's brilliant. It leads us into a phase. This is you, right? So without a doubt, I've spoken to you on an occasion before, and we've known each other for about 2-3 years, and this is why you're here, Juggy. You know, you are an inspiration to a whole generation. That's why I see this. Is that so? Just to help us thinkers. Okay, so I'm going to touch on something which is probably going to take the conversation just slightly into a different direction, because I think it's going to be worth it for people. Is it okay if we can kind of maybe even just share some knowledge to some of our audience today? Would you be okay with that?
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's look at diabetes. Let's type 2 diabetes in specific. Obviously, hypertension, diabetes, heart issues are all connected. Yes. So just give some tips and heads up on some things that one could do to try to contemplate, you know, a reversal of type 2 diabetes, or actually, if they've just been told by the doctors you're on the cusp of it, what could they do?
So I think this is really important. So even when it becomes, you're on the cusp of type 2 diabetes, we've got to reverse engineer the process, because obviously the goal is to get away from diabetes. So HbA1c levels. So again, it's a sciencey word. We don't need to know that. Your doctors will know that. But we want to think about those numbers coming down, right?
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry, apologies. I'm just going to interrupt you there because it's so important. You said something so beautiful and profound. You said reverse engineer. So that tells me that a person who could be suffering from this inadvertently or unconsciously, in essence, what you're saying is they've actually engineered hypertension or engineered diabetes, right? How powerful. That's just switched something on in my brain, in other people's brains, I'm sure, who are listening, the Inspired Tribe and Salam Radio followers, that what the illness that you have, you engineered it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Now we're going to say how to reverse engineer. Over to you, Juggy.
Well, you know what? People talk about genetics, especially in Asian populations. Genetically speaking, yes, we are prone to these, metabolic diseases, so metabolic syndrome, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, cholesterol, fatty liver. We're prone to these things, but that doesn't mean to say that we're going to get these. And there was a really lovely quote, and it was, the genetics of the gun, and the lifestyle, the environment is the trigger. So if we think about it from that perspective, we get to choose if we pull the trigger or not. And ultimately, when we think about reverse engineering, well, first of all, what do? We need to actually figure out what we're doing day to day. And when we're working with somebody, for example, the first 10 to 14 days, all we're doing is information gathering. What time do you wake up? How much sleep do you get? How stressed are you on a day-to-day basis? How active are you on a day-to-day basis? Do you train? Do you have a physical exercise routine or a regimen? Do you think about nutrition? What are your thoughts on nutrition? Is it restrictive? Is it overly restrictive? Is it causing binge diet cycles? We need to really get to grips with what somebody's doing on a day-to-day basis to be able to formulate a strategy to reverse engineer.
That is so comprehensive. And this is basically, I assume, we spoke about this some time ago, about your 90-day kind of reversal, right? For diabetes program that you offer. So the first 10 days, you are absolutely focused on the person's, you're not doing any work with them besides stripping out, extrapolating the actual lifestyle they have and their thoughts behind it. Wow, that's just tremendous.
Even on a belief systems, what belief systems do we have about our health? Do we think it's inevitable that we're going to get disease? Do we think it's inevitable that we're going to put on weight? Do we actually believe we've got the capability of losing body fat and getting healthier? Like if we're working with a mother who's got 2 children at home, who's also working themselves, is it possible for you? And ultimately, of course it is, but we've got to think about the timeline. How much can you do? The more you can do, the quicker you can progress. But that's trying not to put too much pressure on an individual. The other side of it is I recognized 5-6 years ago when I was purely helping competitive bodybuilders get into the shape that they wanted to be in. I could send them a plan and I could tell them what to do, and they would go and do it. When you're working with a mother of 2, when you're working with a guy that runs his own business, that's international, that's flying from one place to the next, they haven't got a plan of action. They can't just say, here's a diet plan, I'm going to stick to it. Then it becomes about mentoring. Then it becomes about coaching. Then it becomes about psychology. How do we manage that stress? That's why I built a team around me.
That's brilliant. That's absolutely beautiful. I'm not joking. It's just, this is wonderful. So now, please continue. I don't want to stop you. Team, talk a little bit, if you don't mind. We may run out of time, but if somebody wants to get hold of you, Juggy, and even contemplate, a CEO or somebody who's got this harsh, lifestyle that they're kind of, if you're eating out of boxes and bags, and less so now through COVID, but even eating out too much and eating eating out food and takeaway food, how would they get hold of you, Juggy?
Do you know what, Sukhi? I don't normally do this, but I'm going to give my WhatsApp number out right now.
Really? Okay. Well, thank you very much. Please do.
And I communicate quite quickly on WhatsApp, but message me on. Are you happy with me sharing the number?
Yeah, absolutely. Please do, go for it. If you're comfortable, you don't really get many, cold callers, but we're out here. Our intention when we're sharing this number is to help people. Please do, go for it.
Drop me a WhatsApp message on 075 6 111 0051. That's 0756 111 0051. And that will come straight through to me, and I'll be able to communicate straight away.
Just to clarify, that's going to be That's a direct line to you, Juggy Sidhu, the Indian body coach. Yes, and not anybody else. And I'm also going to pick it up. You're going to pick it up yourself. And what sort of question would somebody ask you?
Look, everybody's on a unique journey. So some people are on a health transformation journey. Some people are trying to become the best versions of themselves. Some people are trying to become the role models within their own familial environment. So from my perspective, come and ask me the question about who you want to be. Talk to me about where you want to be. Tell me what point B looks like in your journey. You're at point A. What does point B look like in your journey? Talk to me from the perspective that you're already there. And then, like I said before, let's reverse engineer it. Let's get from point A to point B. Let's factor in and create a strategy around every element of your life to get you to where you want to be, but also allow you to sustain it. I want you to have the tools at the end of the journey with me. After 90 days, even 90 days, which is, it's, you know, a drop in the ocean in relation to the rest of your life.
We've got 90 days of this year, or under 90 days of this year left. Of course, 2021 will start. You know, that's how easy it is.
Imagine after 90 days being autonomous with your nutrition, knowing what to do, knowing how to adapt to your environment, knowing how to adapt your exercise, your recovery regime, knowing how to get better quality sleep, how to manage your stress better, to have a team of experts support you through this. It's not just me. This is important. Like, I recognize that I can't be the very best psychologist. I can't be an injury rehab specialist. I can't be the best nutritionist. I can't be the best cardiovascular health doctor. I needed to bring in expertise into a team. On a 90-day program, you've got all this access to specialists in their fields that will support you through each step.
Sorry to stop you there, because I just want to be very clear about this. Okay, so if somebody's got type 2 diabetes, hypertension, fatty liver, or anything they want to try to reverse, can't control stress, for example, they would, in essence, send you a text. If anybody's just joined us now, please rewind this, and Juggy's already given his number. Send you a text and say, Juggy, something like this. Juggy, I have, and it's obviously in confidence, and I know you're in that space, I have this situation in my life, and can we get on a call just to discuss and explore what I could possibly do about this? And then obviously that first call is going to be free of charge. You're not going to charge at all. But if they want to then commit to your 90-day program, they can. If not, then they've still got the tools at a certain level to try to do something about it. Is that what I'm trying to say here?
Yes, absolutely.
Well done. Brilliant. And if somebody wants to follow you on Instagram or any of your social, how would they what handles would they touch?
Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, at the Indian Body Coach.
So all of them at the Indian Body Coach. Yes?
Absolutely.
Or is the there, or is it just Indian Body Coach?
At the Indian Body Coach on all social media platforms, even Twitter. I've started to use Twitter a little bit more recently.
Yeah, I'm more interested in that market myself. And most of us, we don't do our own sort of social media. So I tend to do Twitter myself. So that's wonderful. Juggy, this has been mind blowing. Looks like I might even take it myself, but there we are. I've said it publicly. People with health that they can reverse back, and they can really take active action, should I say, conscious action to create the change. This is wonderful. And thank you very much for being so open as well. This is a part of the interview where I just have to get really close with yourself a little bit further. And wow, what an interview. If you've just joined us, you know, you've got to rewind this. And if you're watching this live, scrub back to the start. It is mind blowing. Listen to it. In this world, I always ask individuals with the Empower Hour show, we get to a stage where we've connected so much with the audience and everybody. And I think it deserves a real connection to you as a human being. And I call this the legacy moment. If I was to ask you, Juggy, and I'm sure I'm springing this on you, I apologize, but if I said call this the epitaph moment, and I appreciate we're Sikhs and we don't go through burial, we go through cremation. But if there was a plaque, if you can just imagine this, much the same as your dream principles, if you could visualize this, Juggy, and if I gave you a sentence, I would like you to finish it if you could. And I know it's off the cuff, but just give it a go. It's something, here lies Juggy Singh Sidhu, the man who. Please help us understand the legacy that you're going to leave.
You know what? The funny thing is, when it comes to this, it's something that I do reflect on quite a lot, because I think it was, Gary Vaynerchuk that put it into my mind that we've got a certain amount of time on this earth, and it's what people are going to say after you've gone that's going to be most important. And for me, it was, I think, Juggy Sidhu, the man who inspired a generation of Indians to realize that they can be happy and healthy.
Wow. So Juggy Sidhu, the man who inspired a generation to make them realize that they could be happy and healthy in the one go. And that's an Indian generation that changes. That's just truly beautiful. What does that mean to you, though?
If we think about this, like, I personally feel that we're the generation of change. So we're that middle generation from the grafters, let's say, the people that gave us the opportunities that we have today. I went to university, I went and studied. I feel very, very privileged, but I wouldn't have been able to do that had my mom and dad and my bibi and baba not come over, and my nana and nanny, to create this environment for us to flourish. And I think all of us need to be very, very grateful for that. Like, we wouldn't be here with the opportunity to impact others with what we do today. We wouldn't have the opportunity to flourish. We wouldn't have the lifestyles that we potentially lead today. So I think we need to be grateful for that. And I also think we need to be mindful of the lessons that we've learned from our elder generations, that potentially some of the diseases that they face today was from stress, from working so much, from not managing that, from not understanding nutrition, from not having the opportunity to really change their diet or their lifestyles because they didn't have a choice. We have the choice, and we also have the next generation coming up below us that we can impact positively. So that's what it means to me.
Beautiful. I can talk from my own personal journey with my father and my mother. Both of them worked beyond themselves. They created a wealth that they handed over to us as a family, as siblings. But, I think they probably overlooked their own personal health. And this is so beautiful to hear, that you're trying to inspire that generation to realize that they are of value as well. Their job is not just to grind themselves completely beyond their own understanding and health. Because my father, he's feeling sciatica issues right now, based upon his decisions that he must have made consciously or unconsciously whilst he was in his heyday of working. And maybe he had signs earlier that he could have done something about scoliosis in his back or something else, but it's evident that he ignored it because he thought that, my world is to go and keep pushing forward. So what a beautiful, beautiful mission there, Juggy, and I really am proud to have you on the show. I want to just ask you a deep question. We call this a wisdom quote, or a moment, or something that just picks you up, because people are watching this, they're really thoroughly enjoying it, I'm sure. When you have those down moments and what we call a mix-up of clarity or a disparity of where you're going, what brings you back, and moves you forward in life? What's the quote that somebody can take away today?
There's two. I think the one that really helped me a lot around 3 or 4 years ago was, I am enough.
Wow.
And I would repeat that to myself, and I would hear myself say it. So I recorded it, and I would hear myself say it every night before I went to bed. But I think now, we evolve, we grow, we develop, and, we change as individuals. And now, Sukhi, I think this would be very, familiar to you, but onwards and upwards.
Onwards and upwards. Hey! Onwards and upwards. And what does that mean to you? Because it's something that I'm very, very close to and very familiar with as well. It's something that we deliver after every single communication within our community, the Inspired Tribe. We all say onwards and upwards. To me, it was very, very powerful.
Yeah, well, onwards being that, there's always a step forwards that we can take. And it's a conscious choice that we have. Do we take that step forwards today? Upwards being, we're in life to progress and develop and move forwards. But also upwards, we're trying to get to the next level. And it doesn't need to be anything crazy on a day-to-day basis, but every step forwards will inevitably lead us upwards. And if we can get to the point where we're doing that daily, where we're choosing to do that daily, then who knows what doors will open up, what opportunities will arise.
Consciously. Juggy, I can't believe the time's gone. Can you believe that? We're already at the end of our interview. This has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Juggy Sidhu, the Indian body coach. I really want to thank you on behalf of Salam Radio, our sponsors, and also the whole inspiredtribe.io. I hope everybody has thoroughly enjoyed and picked up these tips and understandings and got really close to you as a human being as well. And I want to thank you on behalf of everybody. Thank you, Juggy Sidhu, for being here and being our 63rd guest on the Empower Hour show.
It's okay. I'm really grateful for this. I feel so comfortable opening up today, and it's an amazing conversation. And I hope if just one person is helped by this, then that's my mission achieved for today.
Truly, truly beautiful. And thank you very much once again for being with us today. And I'm sure you have definitely touched at least one person, if not many. I think you'll be tonight. And what a great mission, what a great journey, and what a humble outlook to life as well. And for everybody else this evening, thank you very much for tuning in and watching us on YouTube, on Salam Radio, on DAB, on 102.7 here in Peterborough on FM. I am so proud that we have a regular slot every Tuesday evening between 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock in the evening, live streaming. Next week, we will have another coveted guest, which we will share during the week through the promotion. Thank you very much for being with us this evening, and I hope to see you soon. Take care. See you.